A lot stands out in Dark Souls, but a feature I wish future games would have carried over was the tail cut. All future games would not have any tail cuts excluding Dark Souls 2, which had lackluster tail cuts. It did have some dismemberment, but nothing in the unique drop department. Dark Souls 1 has 9 tail cuts from bosses and enemies with 8 unique weapons from these cuts, while Dark Souls 2 cuts this in half by having only 4 tail cuts with no unique item drops. What makes tail cuts so cool are, one, they are satisfying, but also the weapon drop and reduced moveset. It seems that removing the unique weapons from tail cuts has made them less than memorable in Dark Souls 2. To honor this amazing feature and shine a spotlight on it, I decided to speedrun all Dark Souls 1 tail cuts. Let me start by explaining what getting all tail cuts entails. A tail cut is accompanied by an item, so once I have said item, I don't need to get another tail cut from that enemy type. Most tail cuts are associated with bosses, so I only have one chance to get them per new game cycle. The only exception to this rule are the Bell Gargoyles, the Sanctuary Guardian, and the Stone Dragon. To make things more interesting and cut down needless time of cutting tails I've already cut, it needs to be a boss tail cut. If I accidentally kill a boss before getting the tail cut, it is a reset. This does mean I do not have to kill the boss, but only need to cut its tail. Now that I've explained my ruling for a tail cut, here is it written out for those who need it written out.
All 9 tail cuts need to be cut from a boss encounter, however the Stone Dragon is excluded from this.
A boss has a health bar at the bottom of the screen displaying the boss's name. The items I need to obtain are as follows: Gargoyle Tail Axe, Priscilla's Dagger, Orange Charred Ring, Moonlight Greatsword, Guardian Tail, Obsidian Greatsword, Drake Sword, Dragon King Great Axe, and finally the Dragon Greatsword. The run is over after collecting the final tail item. The game does not need to be completed. If you would like to see this run not edited without commentary, it will be linked in the description, as well as resources to all the glitches used throughout the run. With all this explanation of this very serious run finished, I can finally start with character creation. You are not going to believe this, but I picked Thief for the Master Key and Black Firebombs to kill the Asylum Demon quickly. I know, not much variety, but if you want variety, you can get the Prepare to Die Edition version of this game. You only need to pay a lot of money or break some laws. It is really clever game design when you think about it. The first boss of this area has a tail, and you can't even cut it off. Missed opportunity, honestly. I feel like it would have been cool to have a tail cut be what rewards you with the Demon's Great Hammer. Well, it's only the tutorial boss that would never be reskinned twice in this game and 10 times in Elden Ring. As I open the door to the boss's arena, I reposition my mouse over the left arrow in the inventory tab. Mark that down, remember that? Once the door is open, I run over to this pile of rubble and throw some firebombs at this unique boss. After the third bomb, I get ready to roll an attack only to just chuck more firebombs at it. The demon goes down in 5 throws, and now I can continue on the normal path after killing the demon early. No key was dropped by the boss because Oscar had it the whole time. I make my way past the hollow, enter the fog gate, and then run up the stairs to trigger the boulder. Avoiding the boulder, I make my way to Oscar to receive the Estus Flask and Big Pilgrim's Key. After receiving them, I leave the asylum through the shortcut door. All this happening was done specifically because I'm going to be heading back to the asylum. On my return, I want to head up past the boulder to get a useful item. Good thing that me activating the boulder will stay that way, and there will be no boulder for me to worry about later in the run. While opening the exit door, I quit out to skip the door opening animation. This run is timed with in-game time, so it is faster to skip the animation. During this quit out, I split for Asylum at 1 minute and 42 seconds. Loading back in, the door is open and I can make my way to Firelink. When arriving in Firelink, there is a banner that appears which prevents you from sprinting. This banner can easily be skipped by holding down the gesture menu button before hitting the cutscene trigger. The start button is spammed along with it to skip the 2 cutscenes, as time does not stop on cutscenes. Arriving in Firelink, the gesture menu appears on the first frame, overriding the banner from appearing. In Firelink, the first thing I do is head towards Petrichor before making my way up the stairs on the right. I run around until I get to this part where I attempt to jump up but fail multiple times. I'm trying to get back to the asylum without using the elevator, but this jump is tricky. Would it be faster and easier to use the elevator? Most likely. Is it funny to leave the asylum and then immediately go back? Yes. Once I manage to jump up, I roll up to this item to get the Undead Asylum Floor 2 West Key. Now I make my way up to the crow's nest where I nestle in like an egg and get cozy. This is also a good opportunity to menu as I just have to wait, so I drop the demon's great hammer as I won't be needing it. After waiting 20 seconds, I am taken back to the undead asylum. Back in the asylum, they put 4 torch hollows with the worst attack anyone has ever seen out front. Getting hit by this will combo me like a fighting game, so I wait by those gravestones for the hollows to get closer. Once I feel safe, I jump, landing past the hollows. It was most definitely not close to me dying as I make my way back into the asylum. This is the re-entered asylum, so I have to be cautious of the floor that collapsed into the Stray Demon's boss room. The Stray Demon fight is so optional, you can get every item from this area without fighting it besides what it drops. I make my way to the upper asylum, dodging the boulder that I most definitely did not already activate. Opening the door, I sprint before rolling at this pile. I run towards where the extra weapon would be located and toggle my left hand 3 times. This seems to help me get through these hollows as I make my way to the 2 shield hollows blocking a door. I stop and let the one with the sword get closer before going for the door. After opening the door, I safety roll away from it and make my way to one of the best rings in the game. The rusted iron ring removes the slowdown received from water, poison swamps, and even the tar pits. Now, all that is left in the asylum is for me to go grab the doll to be able to access the painted world later. It is a pretty straightforward path. I make my way into the courtyard, then I drop down back to the very start of the game. In the way is a black knight, but they really like to do this thrust attack that I can easily strafe. Making my way to the doll, I pick it up before dark-siding back to Firelink's shrine. During the load screen, I split for Asylum Again at 4 minutes and 52 seconds. I tricked you into thinking this run was going to be different from other speedruns. This is Dark Souls Remastered, and I have an aversion to magic, so I take the elevator down to the new Londo runes. I'm going to dupe the humanity on the elevator ride down. If you are already familiar with the process, skip to here in the video. To dupe the humanity, first I need to get the brightness menu over the inventory. I do this by pressing A and then right bumpers slightly after. Once the brightness menu is over the inventory, it has been done correctly. With these 2 menus open, I want to select the item I want to dupe by having the brightness menu selected. This can be done easily by just moving the item to the top of the inventory, but that is slow. There is some menuing I can do to avoid that, but in this case the humanity is in a good position. I can just hit up until I have the humanity selected with brightness selected as well. From here, I hit A to use the item. Underneath the brightness menu is the use item prompt, but it is hard to see. If you look up in the top left, you can see select item to examine become use selected item. This may seem good, but brightness is not useful to us after selecting the item. Instead, I want to head to defaults where a quantity is stored. To do this, I hit right and down on the D-pad at the same time. For some reason, this will move the brightness menu down 1 without moving the use item menu. Now I can head over to defaults where the quantity is stored, but what does that mean? Quantity stored is the number that the game stores when you view a quantity prompt. For example, if you drop arrows, the game needs to know how many arrows you have, so it knows how many to let you drop. If you have 69 arrows, then the game stores a value of 69. This is what we want to abuse, but we have not viewed any quantity prompts. However, not viewing any quantity prompts is exactly what is going to let me dupe up to 99 humanities. After a load screen, the game resets the stored quantity to 0, but a stored quantity can't really be 0. If you had 0 of an item, then there would just not be an item. Because of this, when we go to use the humanities with default selected, I can use 99. All this happens very fast, but it is done to raise my item discovery, most definitely not for the Black Knight Halberd. By popping the humanities, I open my inventory and spam the ring slot until it lets me equip the rusted iron ring. The elevator is still going down, so it's a good time to equip it. Once we have reached the bottom, I jump down below and leave the new Londo runes for the Valley of the Drakes. Using the master key, I open this door where I pick up a soul. Continuing on, I perform the jump across to save a second, get across the rope bridge, steal the EP dragon's hard-earned souls, but not waking it up this time. The dragon needs to sleep off losing its lower half in Lost Izalith. Up ahead is a drake. I know, drakes in my Valley of Drakes, unheard of. These drakes can just combo me to death, so I pay attention to what attack this first drake does. In this case, the drake does the straightforward lightning breath attack, so I head to the right to avoid the attack. Here's another time code for you to skip to if you are already familiar with this glitch, because I'm going to explain an elevator warp. When an elevator is in its non-default position, I can quit out in its default position to be warped up to where it currently is. In this case, I send the elevator up from the Valley of the Drakes to the Darkroot Basin. I then walk off into the void below every Dark Souls elevator while quitting out. Loading back in, I'm at the top in the Darkroot Basin, saving around 13 seconds. However, there will be an elevator warp later in the run that will save way more time. I will let you know when that comes up, but for right now, we need to get a weapon.
Running out of the cave, I head straight for the Grass Crest shield for the stamina regen before quitting out.
It is always good to grab the speedrun shield in a speedrun. What is not good to grab is the Black Knight halberd. I load back in, turn around, and run at the knight. Hopefully they decided to jump off the cliff, allowing me to cheese them. In this case, I had to give them some encouragement, but it still worked out. There's only around a 30% chance of getting the halberd with the humanities, but I use a tool to spawn it in when it does not drop. This is a very prestigious and real category, so I understand if this is upsetting to some of you. I just don't care. There are a couple more items I want to pick up here, but first I equip the Grass Crest shield into my right hand. I will use this shield in a bit to push an enemy out of the way. Fist may knock enemies back, but a shield bash really shoves enemies out of the way. Back in the basin, I make a detour to grab the Hunter's starting class. The only thing I really needed from this was the bow and arrows for a couple glitches later, but don't worry about that for right now. Because what worries me is Sony owning Demon Souls, so now I have to look at the worst Crystal Lizard version. I quickly dispatch this imposter by first hitting it and then throwing a black firebomb to finish it off. This gives me 2 Twinkling Titanite that I'm going to be duping at Andre. First, I perform another dupe that is exactly the same as the humanity dupe from earlier. This time, I target the soul I picked up at the door when I first entered the Valley of the Drakes for 100,000 souls. With this extra money, I buy 999 wooden arrows that I'm going to use as a quantity storage for a dupe.
However, we are going to perform a material dupe right now instead.
If you are already familiar with duping materials, which is slightly different from the humanity dupe I did earlier, you can skip to here. I head back up to the standard arrows in the shop where I'm going to perform a prompt swap. This is where having that cursor over the left arrow in the inventory tab comes into play. I hit left click and A at the same time to swap the prompt of buying arrows with a quantity select to the lawn swords. Now I am buying a weapon, but I can select to buy multiple, which normally you can't do. This confuses the game, so when I go to buy 9 swords, I don't receive 9 separate swords, but instead 1 sword that is 9 swords. This does 2 things to the weapon. First, it multiplies the weapon's weight by how many you bought. The increased weight is useless to us, but the second thing is more interesting. This sword now has a quantity of 9, but a weapon should have a quantity of 1. When you have duplicates of the same weapon, it does not have a number on it like arrows do, but instead it is 2 separate items. Because of this, we can abuse the way Dark Souls calculates quantity stored when buying a weapon. I go to buy the sword again, and some math happens. Don't worry, the math is very simple for once. The game takes the max quantity of an item and subtracts the amount held. In this case, the max quantity of a sword is 1, but the quantity of a sword we have is 9. The game takes that 1 and then subtracts it by 9, giving a stored quantity of -8. You should not have a negative item, that is not possible, so we abuse it. I performed the soul dupe from earlier, but instead I want to use the stored quantity on the Twinkling Titanite. Instead of using the Titanite, we want to drop it, and thankfully the remaster of this game put a lot of work in and left use item in the prompt of the upgrade materials. Now, all I need to do is head down and select the Titanite and then go down and over to defaults to drop the Titanite. I drop the item by -8, but Dark Souls is still using simple math. Whenever you subtract a negative, it can be rewritten as addition. Now, when I drop the Titanite, I receive 8 more, giving me 10 Twinkling Titanite in total. An item looks to get dropped on the ground, but this is just a null item. Picking it up gives you nothing, don't worry about it. I don't need to pick up anything else because I have enough to level up the halberd to +5. Once I finish reinforcing the weapon, I head up the staircase and go to drop the wooden arrows I bought, but cancel the drop. This stores the quantity of 999 that I'm going to use to dupe the soul I received from the EP Dragon. At the bonfire, I dupe the soul to receive 2 million souls before lighting the parish bonfire to level up. I level up dexterity to 18 and strength to 32 to meet both stat requirements for the halberd. Then I level my endurance to 24, and then finally I level vitality to 64. I'm going to the DLC, so I am going to need the extra health. The DLC is still a little far away and the first Hellkite is coming up. Sitting up from the bonfire, I make my way to the Gargoyles. Most of the enemies can be sprinted past, but the Balder Knight on the staircase is scary. To strafe around it, I stop to bait it down the staircase before twirling past it. Next up is my favorite room in the game, and the reason I have this shield in my right hand. I look out for the first 2 hollows who don't give me a lunge attack. The 3rd hollow blocks the door, but I shove them out of the way to get to the ladders. Ladders are always good to menu, so I put the shield back in my left hand and prep the halberd. After entering the fight, I run over to this first statue and throw a black firebomb. While throwing it, I am up as high as I can and try throwing it towards the left gargoyle statue. Not only did I mess up the throw, but I also got the fly up where it would not have hit anyways. This is what I get for using a QQ strat, but I recover and get the tail cut anyways. As per the rules, I did not need to defeat the gargoyles, but ringing the bells is important. I will explain more later, but it will all make sense. While I'm going up the ladder, let me show you what a proper firebomb looks like. It will cut the tail of the gargoyle, causing it to stagger forward towards me before turning around. This makes the tail cut easy, which may not seem important, but it is. When I go for the tail cut on the gargoyle, it needs to be the first hit because I do so much damage. For some reason, if you hit the tail, but that hit kills the creature, then it will not cut the tail. I really needed to be careful with this cut, but it is only going to get worse. At the top, I ring the first bell of awakening before teleporting back to the undead parish. I split for the bell gargoyles here at 11 minutes and 22 seconds. As I stated earlier, I'm going to the DLC, so there is some setup needed. Let me go over the horrendous requirements to gain access to the DLC. First, you need to defeat the Hydra in the basin. Then, after defeating the Hydra, you need to reload the game in some way, or else the Golem with Dusk will just not have spawned in. After loading back in, you kill the golden golem to free Dusk before exhausting her dialogue. She will fade away from here, leading to the next step far away. I have to go round, and kill this golem in the Duke's archives for the broken pendant. Now with this pendant, I have to head all the way back to where I rescued Dusk, and a portal will have appeared to take me to the DLC. It is quite simple, you should have just read the item descriptions or something forehead. Back in the run, I'm heading to the lake with the Hydra to kill it. One thing I realized was it most likely would have been faster to use the Crest of Artorias to get to the Hydra. At least when I finished leveling up, I did not have an extra 20,000 souls I could have bought it with. They really need to ban me from routing out speedruns. I make my way back to the basin where I sprint past the golems by getting hit by the water blast from the Hydra. In the lake, I run over towards the waterfall before quitting out. I don't want the golems to get in the way while I kill the Hydra, so performing a quit out here will reset all their positions. After loading back in, I stay close to the edge while holding up my shield. I'm trying to bait out the melee attack from the Hydra, but I hold the shield up to reduce the damage from getting hit. After the head slammed down, I two-hand the halberd for more damage. To cut off a head, I only need to deal 264 damage, but dealing extra damage will still damage the Hydra's total health bar. I'll have to cut 5 heads off with this damage, saving me from having to cut some of the more annoying heads. The Hydra gets a little confused at some point and starts missing me, like what is it even targeting? Also, I aggroed a golem, but I just pretend like the golem does not exist. This was really dumb, but somehow it worked out. The Hydra slams down, and the golem somehow missed me while I'm standing still. I cut the 5th head and make my way to where the golden golem will spawn. I re-equip the halberd and quit out to reload the area. Now the golem is here, so I go kill it. I tried to strafe to the left of the golem, but for some reason FromSoft gave the enemy feet hitboxes and a knee hitbox on the right leg. Yes, I am mad that I got hit on the first frame of this attack because of a knee hitbox even though I clearly avoided it. It does not matter as I kill the golem in 2 hits, freeing Dusk. I unequip the halberd and wait for Dusk to pop out. Then, I spam through her dialogue and dark sign back to the undead parish as soon as the game lets me. I split for freeing Dusk here at 14 minutes and 43 seconds. Now that I'm back in the parish with all the setup done, I can make my way to Anor Londo. However, I have not run the second bell, so instead I'm going to be skipping past the gate. If you are already familiar with Sin's Gate Skip, you can skip to here. I run up to this group of hollows and parry into this corner so hopefully the closest one doesn't attack. Whenever the hollow does not attack, it takes them forever to path to you. I want to bait the hollow down this staircase to this 3rd pillar. I then parry and repost them to displace myself into the wall hitting a death cam. The death cam is the cinematic overhead cam you get when you are falling to your death. Typically this is followed to dying by either a kill box or just hitting the ground a little too hard. What I just did with this parry was get a death cam without dying, which can be very useful. The camera is now overhead and the game controls with tank controls. This makes navigating a little hard, but what this also does is stop surrounding areas from loading. Right now the gate to Sin's Fortress is no longer loaded in and I can just pass through it. It is not easy with the controls and camera, but I am used to it from practice. Once past the gate, I quit out to get rid of the def cam while storing my position inside of Sin's fortress. Once loaded in, I make my way through Sin's fort as comfy as ever. The snake enemies just let me pass because they're nice. Blades are easily avoided by timing my runs until I make my way up to the lightning snake. These lightning snakes are bad and block narrow passageways. I have to dodge this one's lightning attacks and the blades, but they messed up their spacing and I can just sprint around them to get deeper into Sins. I run to the corner to avoid the scripted boulder that hits the comedically placed enemy. Slipping past, I make my way to the fog gate before running past a trap. There's a boulder that is supposed to squash me for trying to sprint up to the control room, but I can just quit out. Just like how enemies reset on quit outs, the boulder also resets. The boulder might just be an enemy, it is not unheard of from FromSoft. I sprint further in past the pressure plate trap, the closely spaced blades, and I punch the snake. This snake placed themselves properly to block me, but a punch works. I make my way past the last set of blades to get to the exterior section of Sin's fortress. This section of Sins is the easiest. You only get hit by the giant throwing explosive boulders if you stop moving. The giant only throws the boulders in scripted locations, so by just sprinting, I don't have to worry about it. I can make my way up to the top where the final challenge of Sins awaits. Bob is a challenging hollow archer that I expertly hit out of the way before making my way to the Iron Golem. I equip the halberd while entering the fight before destroying Iron Golem. By hitting the Golem with a heavy attack to the feet, I do more than the 400 damage threshold to cause the Golem to stagger. Then I perform a normal attack to slash its ankles for the final 200 damage needed to cause the Golem to fall. This fight is scripted, so the Golem falls off the edge to its death, allowing me to enter Anor Londo. First thing I do in Anor Londo is grab the Anor Londo bonfire. This run is very long, so I'm going to be grabbing safety bonfires. I will be warping back to this bonfire later, but it is also a nice safety bonfire before I perform this meme roll. If you already know how a meme roll is performed, you can skip to here. A meme roll, also known as an air roll, also known as a chain roll, is used to negate fall damage. Whenever your equip load in the remastered version of Dark Souls is greater than 25% but less than or equal to 29.1%, you can just roll in the air. Once you roll, you can't delay any of the rolls, so the first roll needs to be precise at times. This is why it can also be referred to as a chain roll, because you have to chain the rolls. For this meme roll in Anor Londo, I equip the halberd to put my equip load at 26.56%. Then I walk along this line until I reach this line right here. Once I hit the line, I roll straight off and start spamming my rolls, so once I hit the bottom, I negate the fall damage with the iframes of a roll. Also, when I roll at the bottom, I make sure to roll off the platform here, as the def cam will try to kill me here. Which is also why I quit out and then split for Iron Golem at 19 minutes and 14 seconds. Once loaded back in, I meme roll further down, but this second meme roll is much easier. Now I can make my way to everybody's second favorite part of Anor Londo, the rafters. I jump down, hitting the railing to skip the landing animation before making my way through the smashed window. Climbing up the ladder, I equip the Grass Crest shield into my right hand to push an enemy away if I have to. These painted guardians have an interesting instant backstab, but the first guardian let me pass, so I can perform Namu. I jump from this rafter down below, skipping to the fog gate where I re-equip the shield into my left hand. Watching behind me, I make my way to the large elevator, avoiding any projectiles the guardians might throw. I turn the elevator once more, and then roll down below, making my way to the bottom floor of the rafters room. At the end is a large painting. Who would have guessed that the painted guardians guard a painting? Well, I would have never guessed that the peculiar doll is needed to enter the painting for a hidden optional area. This game loves making their hidden areas or paid DLCs so obtuse to access. I make speeding through the painted world of Ariendel look easy, wrong painted world. Crazy there are two painted worlds, but I make the painted world of Arian look easy. The Olympic Hollows can't even stop me, except this one, but I'm able to toggle escape out of the stagger. This was most definitely not luck, and was pure, raw skill. With this skill, I get past the pus creatures that shoot fire and make my way to EP Dragon Bridge. I head around to the right before walking off the edge and landing on an invisible platform. From here, I can just roll down, skipping like 90% of this area. I run past the archers and keep strafing to avoid arrows. A knight drops down, but I can just sprint to left around it and then get hit by an arrow that had to have passed through the knight. Cheating hollows, can't believe it. Now, I'm able to make my way to Priscilla for the second tail cut of the run. Turns out, tail cuts are hard, and I messed this one up. It looks like even though I hit the tail, it does not count as a tail hit. After she goes invisible, I wait until I see her footsteps. Once I see where she is, I do a heavy attack that will stagger her, making her visible once again. Now that I can see her, I try again to get that tail cut. My first attempt fails, and I hit her again. I also got hit by her, and I'm now one shot away from death, but I clutch these. On my next attempt, I get the tail cut and kill Priscilla before leading back to Anor Londo. As soon as I receive the dagger, life splits at 22 minutes and 28 seconds. I unequip the halberd before leaving the painted world by taking the plunge. Now I'm back in Anor Londo. Yeah, not too much happens. I make my way back up to the elevator where I can head up to the main area of Anor Londo. The gargoyle misses me because they are bad. The guardian is a little bit better at the game and almost hits me, but I dodge the attack. The batwing demons are a little better than the guardians, and I'm starting to see a trend here. Unfortunately for them, I'm still better and avoid their attacks. I watch behind me to look out for the lightning bolt attack while managing my stamina. The next batwing demons are easier to pass, but now I need to worry about the Silver Knight archers. The archers can hit me as I go up, so I block my shield just in case. I also watch behind me until I get around the pillar because the batwing demons can still throw lightning at me. Now for the hardest part in this area, the Silver Knight archers. Dealing with them is not going to be as easy as the rest, so I equip the halberd to kill the archer blocking the way. I get lucky here and I can get a running attack to one-shot the Silver Knight. A normal attack will not one-shot, so this is always welcome to help me get to the interior section of this area. First thing I do after getting past this fog gate is grab an ONS safety bonfire. I do a little jump that I'm sure everybody knows about to skip to the main room of this area. Now I can drop down, making my way to my favorite boss, Ornstein and Smo. For once in a speedrun, I get good RNG for this fight. Ornstein gives me the charge opener with no bunny hops. I punish this by hitting him twice to stagger him. Smo has some bad pathing, so I can get the last two attacks in without getting punished. Now it is time for some Super Smo. Smo gives me a jump opener that I use to hit him 3 times. On the third hit, he will stagger, allowing me to get an extra attack in. If my luck was not already good enough, Smo gives me the standard hammer slam. You can just stand close to him and it will miss. Once again, I am Unpunished Snake as I can get the last 2 attacks in, ending this fight. Now it is time to grab the Lordvessel. I quit out on the door, splitting for ONS at 25 minutes and 57 seconds. Once I let it back in, I'm at the groin of this statue and throw a firebomb to remove the illusion of Guinevere. This is faster than talking to her, and I can prep a dark sign to teleport me away after I receive the Lordvessel. I use the particle effects to time it correctly before being brought to the last bonfire rested. From this bonfire, I warp back to Firelink. Because I defeated the Gargoyles earlier, an NPC is waiting for me in Firelink. I kill him, not only for the Fap Ring, but also so he will not kill the Firekeeper later. I will need that bonfire. While heading back down to the New Londo ruins, I do some menuing to drop unwanted weapons. There's nothing else to do, so why not? I drop down, heading back into the Valley of the Drakes before making my way into Blighttown backwards. I'm going to perform another meme roll, but I toggle my right hand once. This is done, so when I equip the halberd later, my fist will be out instead of the halberd. I need this for a glitch that I'm going to be combining with a meme roll. You can skip to here if you are familiar with the Blighttown Plunge. By performing a plunge attack and then hitting a slope, I can cue a roll in midair. This is because the plunge attack lands, but you slide off the slope. The plunge attack landing animation is still playing, and during this time, a roll can be queued. Every weapon type has a different plunge landing animation recovery time, but in this case, the fists work perfectly here. I run off the edge from this plank and perform the plunge attack. Once the queued roll from the plunge happens, I then go into a meme roll from that roll. This is just 2 glitches put together for an easier fast way to the Swamp of Blighttown. There is a way that is faster, but it involves a slope quit out, and those are the devil. In the swamp, I'm able to run because of the ring I picked up earlier. You can tell the enemies were designed around you being slow because they are very easy to run past. After entering Quelaag's domain, I sip some Estus as my stamina is nearly depleted. I'm not worried about Quelaag, but instead the fall damage I'm going to take after this fight. Speaking of the fight, I enter the fight and get the Lava Vomit opener. With the halberd, I'm trying to stunlock her into a stagger combo. I mess up towards the end, but she decided to sidestep right next to me. Really questionable move as I can just easily dispatch her and make my way to the second Bell of Awakening. I ring the bell and roll off down the middle instead of taking the stairs before the cutscene plays. Landing down below, I make my way for the fake wall and speak to Aggie. After selecting yes in his dialogue and spamming through it, I quit out instead of waiting for this slowpoke to move. During this quit out, I split for Quelaag at 29 minutes and 3 seconds. Once lit it back in, I rested the bonfire and then warped to Firelink Shrine. In Firelink, I head to Frampt, punch its dumb neck, and fall into the Firelink altar. I place the Lordvessel before dark signing back to the Daughter of Chaos bonfire. This may seem weird, but there is a reason for this. Let me state this very clearly this time. Killing ONS and receiving the Lordvessel does not wake Frampt up. Frampt is not awake, allowing me to enter the Firelink altar until I have run the 2 Bells of Awakening. Reading the 2 bells can be bypassed, but that requires killing Seath and the 4 kings after obtaining the Lordvessel. This is slower because both the bells are located in areas I need to go anyways while the 4 kings are out of the way. And yes, I know I can skip some golden fog gates, but that would add so much more pain to this already painful run. It may not seem bad right now, but trust me, this run sucks. Let me get back into this run now that I'm done venting about an easy misunderstanding to have. Since I'm already here in the demon runes, I might as well get the tail cut from here. First, I need to get past Ceaseless, and killing him is slow. Instead, I'm going to perform Ceaseless Skip. After falling down from this slope and rolling to negate the fall damage, I head over to this collapsed pillar. I equip the bow I picked up earlier and aim at a Dorito in the terrain above that Capra Demon. This will cause Capra to investigate and then slip off the edge. After firing the arrow, I unequip the bow and perform a fall damage cancel. This is just the plunge roll and the meme roll from earlier without the meme roll added on. This time, I cancel the fall damage with the queued roll. In the lava, I follow a specific path and roll through the lava to avoid damage. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but instead I'll have a link to a tutorial in the description. Explaining this one will just turn into a tutorial pretty much, and I suck at it. Eventually I'm able to use the safe spots in the lava to make it to the demon runes without killing Ceaseless. Like I said, I suck, so I ran a Vestus doing this. I put some humanities in my hotbar to heal back up to full in a bit because dying is a huge time loss. Dropping down to avoid the Capra copy and paste, I take more fall damage. I'm one shot from the next boss, so I pop the humanity to get back up to full before continuing on. Yes, there is a bonfire right here, if you killed Ceaseless. Fun times. Sprinting past these enemies is easy, allowing me to enter the Demon Firesage fight. The Firesage opens with a large explosion, but I just sprint away. Then I start to hit away at the Firesage before it decides to jump. This is an easy attack to punish, but it's most likely slow if you get it. Lucky for me, I'm using a Black Knight weapon, which not only does insane damage, but also increases damage against demons by around 20%. The Firesage goes down without me taking a hit. As soon as the Firesage is considered defeated, Life Split splits at 32 minutes and 25 seconds. I grab the bonfire just in case I die, or I would have to redo Ceaseless Skip again. Now, it is a really annoying tree root path down to the next boss that I came here for. After entering the fight and skipping the cutscene, I roll past the lava patch on the right. I regain stamina before rolling through the next bit of lava to get to the large center of the arena. Now it is just RNG for if the Centipede Demon will position itself properly so I can hit its tail. Or I could just be insane and not care about the lava. I get the tail cut fast and then kill the tail enemy. Once I receive the orange charred ring, I dark sign out, splitting for Centipede Demon at 33 minutes and 30 seconds. Now let me explain some things about this fight for the 5 people writing a comment. Yes, I know the boss has an arm that can also be cut off that also gives you the ring. Let's run that by one more time. Arm. An arm. It's an arm, not a tail. I also did not leave after getting the tail cut, but after I got the item. Like I stated in the rules, the run is over once I receive all tail cut items. It makes it easier to check that I got all tail cuts, but for Centipede, cutting off the tail is weird. It does not just cut the tail off, but also it becomes a separate enemy. I need to kill that tail to get the ring for the run. Now that I'm done clearing those fiends up for those 5 people, I'm going to Anor Londo to bully Seath. I roll past the boars and make my way to the first elevator. On the elevator ride, I change the order of the halberd to be at the top of the list to make menuing easier. Then I equip it because there's an enemy I need to kill. After reaching the top, I sprint to the golem that holds the broken pendant. I need to be careful here as there's a lot of enemies, and if they get channeler buffed, I could easily die. After avoiding the crystal guys, I make my way into the main hall heading to the left. This helps me avoid the channeler's magic so I can easily get past. Sprinting up the staircase, I strafe any arrows from the crystal beams. I'm heading up to the right as I'm going to be performing an elevator warp here. While pulling the lever to send the elevator up, I equip the halberd to be in meme roll range. Then I prep a quit out, waiting for the elevator to start moving before quitting out. Once I load back in, I use a specific lineup so I get warped up to a specific area. I lock onto this crystal fellow and roll into the pillar, then I roll off the edge. While in the elevator's default position, I quit out. After loading back in, I'm at the top of the elevator, but a little bit out of bounds. From here, I can meme roll down, and this meme roll is super easy, allowing me to skip the whole prison sequence. Once passed, I can just run right to the end of the Duke's archives, but I do perform one more meme roll to skip the ladder. Landing down below, I equip the Fap Ring to put me in fast roll range with the halberd out. I will not be meme rolling anymore, but I also want the halberd already equipped for Seath while still fast rolling. The Crystal Cave is a large area, but also very straightforward.
I run past the golems and into the cave.
This part of the run, I keep very standard as I don't want to perform a cringe slope quit out. I just follow the crystals and invisible barriers down to Seath. In the clam room, I try to bait out the clams to not follow me into the room, but I suck at this. There's some pathing I should do, but I'm too lazy to learn the correct way to do it. I get away with it in this run, so if it works, it works. I trigger the cutscene for the Seath fight and throw a firebomb behind me after skipping the cutscene. This destroys his cheating crystal, but also puts him in an upset animation. I use this to try to get behind him and try to cut his tail off, but it is tricky. Only the tip count stores his tail cut. I make it look easy not to brag, but cutting Seath's tail is super hard if you've never done it before. His tail has 825 HP, and if you're behind him, he can do a tail slam attack. It's not like a cute tail slam, but more like the most awful, gut-wrenching, impossible to avoid attack you've ever seen. I did learn a cool all achievements trick to make the tail cut easier though. Quitting out near certain bosses results in some weird behavior from their AI. I know about this from speedrunning and dealing with save files for practice, but I never thought about abusing it. Seath in particular just turns around if you quit out near his boss fight. To make the tail cut easy, all you do is quit out near the clams. After loading back in, trigger the boss fight and wait for Seath to turn around. Then destroy the crystal, causing the angry animation because he is no longer immortal, boo-hoo. Now his tail cut is right there and easy to cut with plenty of time to spare before he becomes aware again. I really need to sit down and watch an all achievements run one day, but they don't have to deal with the DLC like I'm about to. Dark signing away, I split for Seath at 37 minutes and 57 seconds. After loading in, I warp away to the Undead Parish because I need to enter the DLC. Remember where that golden golem was? Well, that is where the entrance is. The run is very boring as all the enemies can just be sprinted past, but eventually I arrive at the portal. I am pulled into the DLC where I encounter the first DLC boss that has a tail. This boss jumps around a lot, which can make getting the tail cut annoying and RNG dependent. I'm going to use the pick up and enter glitch to break the Guardian's AI. If you are familiar with pick up and enter, you can skip to here. Walking into the right side of the fog gate, I drop an item on the ground. After dropping it, I use the bow to line myself up for this glitch. The angle my character is facing while performing this glitch will determine how I enter the fog gate. I need to make sure I have an angle of 9 here, but you don't have a compass. That is hidden in the debug menu of this game. With the bow, I aim all the way down and aim left until the geometry disappears. Then I proceed to zoom and unzoom until I can see the light part in the wall next to my soul count. It looks kind of like a low quality bold and brash Squidward. I want to line up the right side of the soul count with a green line to the left of the bold and brash. Once I have that, I press E and R at the same time. E is a default interact bind, but R was rebound to interact in the alternative binds for this game. This glitch is very precise and most likely frame perfect, so I mess it up. Then I mess it up again, but at least this will take the RNG out. On the third try, I finally get it. I pick up the item and enter the fog gate, hard to believe, I know. But this causes some weird behavior as I do a turn and enter the fog gate from an angle. This allows me to bypass the AI trigger and into the boss's arena. I run up to the Guardian and see if I'm even able to cut the tail. Yep, sometimes the tail cut just does not work when doing this, but luckily this time it does. Light splits for Sanctuary Garden at 41 minutes and 26 seconds. Wait, that is not right. Whatever, I kill the boss so I can continue on for the rest of the DLC. There is still one more tail cut here for me to claim. In the Darkroot Garden, I make my way past the scarecrows heading for the elevator. This elevator is not active, but I lied to you because I'm going to meme roll. Remastered meme rolls are easy to set up, so all I need to do is equip my leather armor to be in range. I roll off from the deactivated pressure plate and spam the roll. Landing down below, I negate the fall damage and skip the Royal Woods. Now it is Knight Artorias the Abyss Walker time. Once again, another boss of AI tied to the fog gate. However, this time because the boss does not spawn in until I have viewed a cutscene, I enter the fight before quitting out. Once loaded back in, I perform the pick up and enter again. Like the last one, I use a lineup, but this one is easier. I need an angle of 40, which I easily get by aiming with the bow and looking all the way down. Then I aim to the left until I see the pillar in the bottom right of my screen disappear from my view. Now I just need to hit the frame perfect inputs and another skill issue. Seems I'm having a repeat of the Sanctuary Garden because I failed the second try. Then I get it on the third try. Third try really is a charm. Weird. In the Artorias fight, I managed my stamina for the combos. Finally, my DS3 speedrun experience coming into play to quickly uninstall Artorias. I make my way to the fog gate, and once it lets me through, I rest at the Ulasil Township bonfire. Now, I can make my way into Ulasil and it is not scary. I avoid all the enemies and get hit by that dumb, stupid, idiot tracking attack, but the rest goes smoothly. Dropping down on the staircase, I strafe around the Bloathead and get ready to dodge a Dark Orb. I dodge through the attack, and then the Bloathead Sorcerer laughs at me, but this is good RNG? Like, you are taunting on me, but it would be way worse if you just shot another Dark Orb at close range? I don't understand these creatures. What I do understand is how easy it is from here now. I just go down the stairs, then I go up the stairs, then I go up the stairs, then I go up the stairs, then I roll off to this area. Two-handing the halberd, I take care of this Bloathead before focusing my attention on the Mimic. I give the Mimic the 3-hit combo and wait for the animation to finish so I can pick up the Crest Key. As soon as I get it, I dark sign back to the Ulasil Township and make my way to Calamite. With the Crest Key, I can speak to Goff, but he won't shoot down Calamite until I have seen Calamite. It is quite amazing game design when you think about it really hard. You know what else is really great game design? Putting 3 dogs on the run back to a boss. I'm sorry, I can't be a DLC defender, this is just not okay. These dogs may not look that bad, but trust me, they are the worst. Making my way to the Calamite fight, I see Calamite and drop down to the bottom before dark signing back. This should be more than enough according to the Dark Souls wiki dot. Okay, so then why would I go to speak to my friendly sniper giant Goff, he won't shoot Calamite down? Did I mess it up by not looking directly at Calamite, but I still made sure to touch the ground? Maybe I am somehow getting unlucky with dialogue, I don't know. This was Wikidot information, not Fextra. I feel so lied to. Now I have to go back and trigger Calamite's boss fight again. Once again, I go for the dogs and make my way back down into the arena. This time, I don't take chances and wait to physically see Calamite, but a dog joins, of course. The dog cancels my first sign, but I'm able to get the second one off. This little incident cost me around a minute and a half. At least this time, when I speak to Goff, he shoots down Calamite so I can get that tail cut. After the cutscene, I can't dark sign right away, but I have to spam through some dialogue first. It looks like there's some time you could do it before he talks, but his dialogue somehow cancels the dark sign. Now, back at the bonfire, guess what I get to do? Yep, go for the dogs a third time. How fun, this is great. After carefully dropping down the waterfall, a flightless bird is waiting for me. I start running away from Calamite, hoping for a good attack to get the tail cut. On the second attack, he gives it to me. I dodge the dash to the left, get under the tail for him to do the tail slam, and I miss the first attack. Calamite's tail has 540 HP, so I need to get 2 attacks in to cut it. Missing the first means I have to find another attack to punish. I get so lucky because Calamite goes for his weird grab attack that I can avoid by going under him. Before Calamite can bully me some more, I dark sign out of there, splitting for Calamite at 51 minutes and 46 seconds. With the DLC out of the way, I warp back to Firelink to get some cleanup done. We can just go over this one fast, the video is long enough. I head through the bird before encountering the first boss of this area, Taurus. It goes how you would expect, 1, 2, and they're dead. From here, I can head down to the bridge that is not inspired from Demon Souls. The Hellkite Drake is waiting to ambush me, but this is fine. I sprint to the area on the right before the fire hits me, but this game sucks. Once I get up, I move forward before shooting the Drake with an arrow to have it drop down. Now that it is on the ground, I can use the halberd to cut its tail to get the Drake sword. Classic right here as I try to dark sign away but get hit by multiple attacks one after each other. After my second time in the flames, I can finally dark sign away, splitting for Hellkite at 54 minutes and 21 seconds. Arriving back in Firelink, I once again head back into the burg where I'm going to perform the Capra Skip. If you are already familiar with it, skip to here. In the Berg, I jump across to the battlements. Heading for the ladder, I'm going to climb on it and try to go on top of it. I did not fail this multiple times, don't worry about that cut. After climbing up from the bottom while looking to the left, I get put on top of the ladder. From here, I roll over the rubble pile to the out-of-bounds section of the battlement. I drop down on top of the tunnel with the merchant and head towards her. From her, I roll down to the tower, nearly dying to fall damage, but it's fine. I heal up a little bit before continuing on. Heading around the tower, I drop down onto the roof of the depths. From an extended part of the roof, I jump down below to another roof. This is where the bonfire and those creatures are located. On this roof, I'm once again going to drop down onto another roof of a tunnel. This one is a little trickier, but I managed to drop down on top of it. Turning around, I head towards where the shortcut door in the depths is located. The door is above me in a different tunnel, but the interaction for this door is massive. I open the door from underneath, which moves me back in bounds. From the door, I can easily make my way to Gaping Dragon. The channeler is still alive, which may seem like an issue, but not really. Gaping opens with the slam and I just go around behind it. Then I hit the tail and it pops off. Even the dark sign goes off without the channeler being an issue. I split for Gaping Dragon at 57 minutes and 25 seconds. This was the 8th tail cut, and now there's one remaining, but this one sucks. I warp to the Daughter of Chaos bonfire so I can get back into Blighttown to head to the Great Shithole. The run for the swamp is very boring because nothing can hit me. The Rusted Iron Ring is just too good, I love it. I head up the tree, roll through the first fake wall, and then the second one because one was not enough. Once in the Great Hollow, I rested the bonfire, most definitely not because anything bad ever happened here. Look, nothing bad happens here. The Great Hollow is great. Why else would they put that in the name? It is easy to get down to the bottom without dying. Look, I'm even doing it and even taking the ladders because they are great. I drop down from the first Basilisk area to the second Basilisk area. From here, I can get to the mushroom section, and I love mushrooms, they are cool. I hope they did not make the mushroom enemy one of the strongest in the game. The Great Hollow is so great, I don't have to do anything fancy to get to the bottom. Now I can unfortunately leave this great area. Past this fog gate is the Ash Lake, but it's more like an island. Unless they are trying to say the ash is water equivalent, but then the water around this place is land, it is my headcanon now that this place is poorly translated and instead called the Ashen Peninsula. Alright, I think I have spewed enough random words through this area because it has nothing but running. Well, I mean there are claims that can be easily avoided, but there is also a Hydra that can be more annoying. Sometimes the Hydra can hit a water splash from far out, causing some time loss. I get lucky this run, so I don't get hit, making my path to the Stone Dragon uneventful. After running for a couple minutes, I'm at the last tail cut of the run. I head around to the back of the Stone Dragon and sever the tail from the body. After receiving the Dragon Greatsword, the run is over in 1 hour, 4 minutes, and 2 seconds. Dismemberment adds more dynamics to a boss fight, and I hope FromSoft takes a similar approach in future titles. Being able to change a boss fight by targeting a part or doing something outside the arena to change a moveset is cool, as long as it's not required to defeat the boss. Yes, I know you don't have to for some bosses. Just get back to me once you've done a Gothless Calamite in a speedrun. This run was a little cursed, but it would not be a route of mine without it at this point. This also cemented my hatred for the DLC even more than before. Unlike my hate for the DLC, I doubt you hated the video. If you've made it this far, why not like and subscribe to see more videos in the future? Thank you for wasting your time with me.